Now I invite Kenneth Jacobson, who is the professor at the School of Law of Temple University in Philadelphia. And he is a well-known scholar of tax law. I believe it would be very important for us to hear his position. So you have 10 minutes. And at the same time, I remind the audience that, that you can write the questions to the speakers in the chat. And if time allows us, we will be able to ask the speakers to respond. Please, Kenneth, the floor is yours.
And thank you for inviting me to this panel. And Marco, thank you for your remarks. And I'd like to follow up on those remarks. You know, we said in our United States Supreme Court 200 years ago that the power to tax is the power to destroy. And we value, as I know all of you do, we value in the United States our religious freedom. It's ingrained in our Constitution. It is something that we hold very dearly, as we do the separation of church and state, which is very important to allow religions that are not state-sponsored or state-dominant to thrive and to survive. And we do not like our tax authority in the United States. No one likes the Internal Revenue Service in the United States. But, and this is a big but, there's control, there is regulation, there is supervision, there is oversight. There are limits to which the Internal Revenue Service can go in the United States, and they will be restricted from abuses by our courts, by our legislature, and by the people rising up. What happened and what is continuing to happen to Tai Ji Men, in my experience, is absolutely unprecedented. You have had a failure, a collapse of all branches of government in Taiwan in the Tai Ji Men tax case. And I say that seriously and not lightly, because I have been to Taiwan, I have lectured in Taiwan, I have vacationed in Taiwan, I have grown to know a lot about Taiwan and its people. So these are not the comments of some outsider looking in. I've been there, I've experienced it. I have spoken to the legislative UN. I've spoken to the control UN. And let's look at what happened and the failure of government here. The control UN, which I just mentioned. In 2002, they issue rulings about the abuse by the prosecutor in this case. In 2009, they cite violations by the National Tax Bureau. In 2005, they cite the Tai Ji Men tax case as among one of the most egregious human rights violations in Taiwan. And yet, the National Tax Bureau continues. Let's look at the Executive UN. At the direction of the Presidential Office, the Executive UN convened the Intergovernmental Agency Group to try and resolve, as they should, the issue of Tai Ji Men. And they got together and they got the various departments, the various constitutional branches of government in Taiwan together and said, we're going to send out a survey. Let's get to the bottom of this for once and for all. We'll send out a survey. And the presidential office asked the Executive UN to do that. And the Executive UN did that. And the results came back, and the results were overwhelming. And despite the corruption by the National Tax Bureau, the results were overwhelming. And yet Tai Ji Men continues to be prosecuted and persecuted. the court system, the judicial court system, something that I hold dearly, something that I teach my students, something that I practiced for 30 years, something that I revere, the judicial system. You have the Supreme Court, the criminal division of the Supreme Court of Taiwan in 2007, finding no tax fraud, finding no tax evasion, finding absolutely no criminal conduct or inappropriate conduct. You have the High Administrative Court in 2018, finding that these contributions were gifts and not tuition for a cram school. And yet, Tai Ji Men continues to be persecuted. And finally, the Legislative UN, which has held hearings, which has written letters, which has done its own efforts as a separate branch of government to try and rein in the abuse of the tax authorities. And yet, despite the efforts of the well-meaning legislatures of the Legislative UN, Tai Ji Men continues to be persecuted. How is it that all of the branches of the constitutional government of Taiwan, every single one of them, have ruled in favor of Tai Ji Men, have supported Tai Ji Men, have concluded that the gifts to Dr. Wang were gifts and not tuition for a cram school for people to take exams, which is absurd because I have been to Tai Ji Men. I have met with the dizi and I know what they are. I know what they are. How is it that every branch of government of Taiwan has failed in basic due process, has failed to enforce their own findings, their own conclusions? How is it that a tax authority can destroy a person and can try and destroy an organization? It is absolutely incomprehensible to me. It is the most gross deprivation of due process, the most gross violation of fairness, the most gross intrusion on religious liberty. And I would suggest it goes beyond that, because if the tax authorities can do this to an organization like Tai Ji Men, it could do it to anyone. And I believe that this is, in my experience, the most extraordinary situation of a violation of human rights in the tax and religious freedom area that I have seen. As I said in the beginning, the power to tax is the power to destroy. Let me conclude by saying I commend Tai Ji Men for not giving in. They could have paid the tax and gone on, but sometimes principle matters. Often principle matters. And they, as a matter of principle, to not give in to this abuse by the tax authorities, I commend them for that. And then one plea to the government of Taiwan, to the president of Taiwan, and to the other constitutional branches of Taiwan. And that is to fix this. As I said, and you probably saw it in the video, allowing and perpetuating an injustice is as bad as inflicting that injustice in the first place. It is never too late to do the right thing, and the government of Taiwan should do the right thing and eliminate the tax from 1992, which is just absurd considering what has happened for 1991 and the other years, and to restore the property that was unlawfully seized. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to the comments and remarks of the other panelists.